That was James Clapper, who, along with John Brennan, are two of the single worst people out there as it relates to, we know now for a fact that Harry Reid was fed the phony dossier in August of 2016 by Brennan. You know, our CIA is not supposed to act like the KGB and spreading Russian disinformation. Anyway, here to discuss all of this, she played such a big part in breaking so many of these stories from day one, and we've been right now for over a year, as now confirmed on this late night, Saturday night document dump. Sara Carter, investigative reporter, Fox News contributor, is with us. Also David Schoen, civil liberties attorney, criminal rights attorney, another guy that has been incredible in terms of his impeccable research and analysis on this stuff. Sara, we'll start with you. You really, if you work for the mainstream media, you would be getting a Pulitzer Prize. I'm sure that's not going to happen. Kind of like, you know, but the people appreciate it of this country because you are able to literally unveil what is the biggest corruption and abuse of power scandal in our country's history. Now the question is, who's going to be held accountable for all this?
That's a big question, Sean. I mean, I think the most important thing for me and for other journalists who are covering what I consider to be probably one of the biggest stories in modern American politics that we've ever seen, is to continue reporting on the facts and continue to report on the truth. I mean, this isn't about, and I appreciate you saying that about the Pulitzer Prize and on all these awards. This is about getting the truth out to the American people and exposing what we have uncovered to be extensive corruption from the Obama administration all the way into the Trump administration and against this president. And, you know, it's so stunning to me that James Clapper, John Brennan, who's former head of the CIA, you know, would even be shocked that the president would want to revoke their clearances. I mean, all you have to do is look back at one of the last Twitter tweets that Brennan put out on Donald Trump. He basically calls the president treasonous. He said his performance in Helsinki rises and exceeds the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanors. He also called him imbecilic. Here's a man who has access to finished raw intelligence, you know, and has definitely is a notable person across the globe. I mean, people know who Brennan is, and he is working against this administration. Why should this administration allow someone who is basically bordering sedition against the president of the United States to have access to intelligence? And not only that, he's working for, you know, he's working as for MSNBC as a pundit, and Clapper's working for CNN, and Clapper, on the other hand, was the same person who was outed in the House Intelligence Committee's Russia report for leaking information to CNN about the briefing that was held to both then President-elect Trump and President Obama about a dossier that was unverified and salacious. And he leaked that information and held that briefing specifically, if you look at the evidence, so that it would be leaked to the media. These guys should have, based on everyone I have spoken to, even former officials within the intelligence community, should have their clearances revoked.
It's pretty unbelievable. As an attorney, David Schoen, what laws are violated if you lie to a FISA court? What laws are violated if you put the fix in for an investigation to a favored friend or candidate? At what point are the laws going to be followed here, and are people going to pay the real consequences? Because if I did any of the things that Hillary Clinton did, or anybody listening to this program did any of the things she did, we'd be in jail. If I did any such thing and lie on such a monumental level to get a warrant on another American citizen to impact the presidential election, I would be in jail. And as great an attorney as you are, I don't think you could get me out of that jail.
Well, listen, first of all, as you know, these applications are submitted as sworn applications. So there's certainly perjury, and the lies are important. The omissions might be just as important. And by the way, besides all of the laws being broken, the specific rules of the FISA court, Rule 13, requires the government immediately to advise the court in writing if it's aware of any misstatement or omission in any application. So by the time we get up to the fourth renewal, they certainly know about the misstatements and the omissions. And secondly, Rule 13 specifically requires the government to advise the court immediately in writing if any of its orders or authority are being implemented in a way not in compliance with what the court authorized. So and again, the process is so scary because it's ex parte and it's the greatest intrusion. As you may know, the Wall Street Journal today has an article calling for the abolishment of the FISA court. If I can, I just want to piggyback on something Sarah Carter said earlier. Brilliant, as always. She's exactly right. And the idea that Clapper says it's an abuse of the system for the president to strip the security clearance process is nonsense. It's a use of the system and the appropriate use. Forget it, put politics aside. These two were incompetent. No other administration would hire them for these positions. Remember, Clapper is the one who removed Iran and Hezbollah from the terror threat list, and Brennan is the one who tried to put us in bed with Hezbollah, saying they were the moderates in the Middle East. They were incompetent, and now they're speaking in terms of treason and all that. They've politicized the process, and put Susan Rice in that category also. We don't want people like this walking around with security clearance type information. That's it. And it's the president's prerogative. Nobody used executive authority to a greater extent than President Obama in modern times. President Trump has this authority. It's his prerogative. That's a proper use of the system.
You know, I got to be honest. I mean, I actually found an old political article that actually, and it was from 2013, where the White House of then Obama was seeking to scrub the clearance list. In other words, ordering a government-wide reassessment of, I mean, this is pretty phenomenal, actually, when you think about it, a government-wide reassessment of how almost 5 million Americans have been granted classified information and security clearances, and whether each person currently approved to see sensitive national security secrets has a need for any access. That's a pretty, interesting discovery, because that's what they're telling about Donald Trump. But how does John Brennan or James Comey or Jim Clapper, who have said the most outrageous thing in the case of Brennan, Sarah, didn't he hand off information from the dossier to Harry Reid? Isn't that, and it wasn't verified, and he's the CIA director at the time?
Absolutely. I mean, those are the allegations now circulating in Washington and evidence that we've been able to see ourselves and gather from sources. I mean, this is about a person that was actively working to unseat, and it is actively working currently to unseat a president of the United States. These are people that, I mean, when you call President Trump treasonous, treason is a crime that is punishable by death.
But I want you to focus on this. The CIA director is acting like he's the KGB. He's handing literally Russian lies over to the opposition so that they can spread disinformation and affect an election. That is not what our CIA is supposed to be used for. That is an abuse of power. But on top of that, then we've got the legal side of all of this, lying to FISA court judges. Then we've got the, illegal activities of Hillary. Then you've got people using their power to literally put the fix in so she would get considerations that no American would get. At what point are people that broke the law in all of this being held accountable?
Well, what is the Department of Justice doing? No, what is the Department of Justice?
Well, I said last night, Jeff Sessions, your country needs you. Where are you? Where is Jeff Sessions in all of this? He's speaking to school kids today?
High school? Okay. He was talking to high school students.
And they started chanting, "Lock her up." They're smarter than him. Well, I mean, because he's not doing his job. And I've always liked Jeff Sessions. I really have. I always thought he was a good man. He seems paralyzed in his office, incapable of holding these people accountable. If somebody lies to a FISA judge purposefully and the law demands it's verified and they don't follow the law, and they then use the courts to get warrants to spy on American citizens, well, where is the Fourth Amendment protection of everybody involved here?
Right. And with all due respect, you have the fox guarding the chicken coop, the hen house, with Rod Rosenstein. As we know now unequivocally that he signed off on renewal applications. And listen, by the way, part of the thing, besides just the direct lies and the omissions, that's a problem here, because there's no third party, there's no advocacy system here testing these warrant applications. They make claims in the applications that Steele or whoever was credible and reliable in the past, but there's no demonstration of examples to show that reliability, at least that we've seen. Reliability or credibility on the past occasions. There are representations made to the court that we now know, of course, are not true. And the court relied on those things. So where's the correction, since we now know that these things aren't true and that other things were omitted? You can cite to this footnote that the Democratic members of certain committees seem to be citing to now to say, well, it was really disclosed. But even if you read the footnotes, the full information wasn't disclosed, and it was colored. And the true color and tone of what was really going on was not revealed in that footnote.
We'll take a break. More with Sarah Carter, more with David Schoen. All right, as we continue with Sarah Carter and David Schoen. All right, so what is the next step here? We've all been saying that the president, Sarah, needs to go out and unredact this information and demand that the DOJ hand over everything. There seems to be a reluctance among the president's attorneys to do that. Why?
I'd like to know the same question. I don't think there's any harm in getting this information out. I think it's vitally important. I think that maybe they want to keep the president at a distance from the investigations taking place on Capitol Hill. Maybe they're hoping that that will work. I mean, look, from the very beginning, when the president decided to move forward with declassification of the documents for the House Intelligence Committee, I think that opened the door. I know Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch was very good about pointing this out. It opened the door for them to take all of this to the court in order to get the FISA documents that we saw this weekend, which were highly redacted, of course, but they were able to get their hands on those documents regarding Carter Page. And so I think at this point in time, the only thing left is to get the full truth out to the American public. This back and forth does nothing good but harm the country. It harms our ability to move forward as one nation. We are so divided right now. The most important thing, regardless of what that truth is to get the truth out. And the only way the American people are going to find some rest from this is to understand what that truth is. And that truth is in those documents. It's in the documents that they've been withholding. The DOJ has been fighting so deliberately hard to not turn over. It's in the FISA documents that are still redacted, that the president needs to declassify. And the only person that can do this right now, Sean, is President Trump. He has the authority to do that. We know that those documents are going to reveal a lot. Some of the members of Congress have already had an opportunity to see them, but they really need those 19 pages to go public.
All right, we're going to have to let it go there. Thank you both for the great work you've done. Sarah Carter, you've been amazing. And we have a lot more ground to cover. We're only at about 17% of what's coming. I mean, this is going to get even bigger. And there are going to be people going to jail. And I will devote every hour of my life to make sure there's justice in this case, because it is destroying the country, our constitutional republic. It's shredding the rule of law. There's no equal application under the law. And if we don't fix it, that means we're no better than Venezuela or the former Soviet Union.